You're watching UATV News. My name is Inna Kosinska. Good evening. Shooting from mortars, artillery and anti-tank missile systems. Since 11th of January, illegal armed formations have resumed intensive combat training in areas of Donbas not controlled by Kyiv, Minister of Defense reported. At the same time, they use the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine as educational goals.
The artillery and mortar units and anti-tank missile units practiced shelling, driving of combat vehicles on the platoon level and summon of artillery and infantry unit commanders. Moreover, occupying forces ramp up shooting training of artillery crews near the contact line. Enemy units treat positions of joint forces as a training targets.
NATO records the expansion of Russia's military presence in the occupied Crimea and is preparing a response. This was stated by the Secretary-General of the Alliance, Jens Stoltenberg. According to him, the buildup of Russian troops is observed along all NATO borders. Meanwhile, the bloc began to invest more in development of its capabilities.
The reality is that we have seen increased military buildup by Russia from the high north all the way to the Baltic region, Black Sea, Middle East and North Africa. And this is something which is of great concern. We are following the Russian military buildup very closely, and this is also the reason why NATO has increased the readiness of forces.
Is it fake or an outrageous deed? For more than a week, a security service of Ukraine is investigating scandalous information about the underground vaccination of the Ukrainian officials. The Ministry of Health has started its own investigation as well. Our correspondent went to find out the truth.
The Ministry of Health, jointly with the Police and the Security Service of Ukraine, is conducting an investigation into the possible smuggling of the coronavirus vaccine into Ukraine and the secret inoculation of businessmen and high-ranked officials in a private clinic in Kyiv. Minister of Health told our journalist about this in an exclusive interview.
Отримали доручення прем'єр-міністра на проведення.
The Ministry of Health and the State Service on Medicines and Drug Control have been instructed by the Prime Minister to conduct an inspection. I've sent a corresponding order to conduct this inspection, and our employees will also do it if possible. The Minister assured that the investigation will let it clear and reveal the perpetrators. Besides, if the fact of vaccine smuggling is proven, they should be brought to justice. He considers even the probability of secret vaccination at least outrageous.
Це не просто серйозне такі правопорушення з купою.
This is not just a serious offense and violation of different articles of the criminal code. The attitude itself looks disgusting, and I believe that a tough investigation should be carried out. The chief sanitary doctor of Ukraine calls the information about the secret vaccination to be a fake. According to all our channels, we have information that officially none of the immunobiological drugs against COVID-19 has been delivered to Ukraine. I do not believe that someone has delivered something. If they did, it could only be Pfizer vaccine. But Pfizer vaccine requires a transport temperature of -70 degrees Celsius. The fact that vaccine against coronavirus could be illegally transported and that someone has already managed to vaccinate oneself with it is nonsense, because in addition to very specific conditions of transportation and storage, there are other nuances.
It's impossible to carry out vaccination in a place where there is no procedure room, and people who could be doctors or nurses have no special training in vaccine prophylaxis. There should be a primary care kit in this room as well. Probably you already know that almost 2 million people in the USA were vaccinated with 2 vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, and 29 people got anaphylaxis. This is a very serious condition. A person could die.
Last week, right after information about possible smuggling and secret vaccination against COVID-19 in Ukraine appeared in the media, President Volodymyr Zelensky instructed the security forces to investigate the situation. The Security Service of Ukraine has not yet commented on the situation, reported by Nick Starkov, Valery Bakas, UATV News.
Over the past 4 months, 70 babies were born in the Department for Coronavirus infected in the Lviv Maternity Hospital, and most of them were born healthy. Our correspondents learned how the maternity ward works during the pandemic. It's a boy. His weight 3,300 grams, height 52 centimeters.
The baby was born 3 days ago. His mother found out that she had coronavirus a week before giving birth.
I didn't think at all that this could happen to me, because at 39 weeks, at the finish line, I started having seizures, I had a cough and fever, and of course I was sent here.
Nadia is just preparing to become mother for the second time. She arrived to this department a week ago.
It was hard for me to breathe for a week. Now I feel good, just waiting for the baby's birth.
The medical staff in this department works only in protective suits. Here are all the personal protective equipment items. Employees put on them here and go through the screen to the area where they will be in contact with sick patients. Oxygen concentrators are installed in each ward. Treatment for pregnant women is prescribed according to the principle "do no harm to the child." The peculiarities of the treatment of pregnant women is that we care about both lives, both the pregnant woman and the fetus which develops in utero. Certain groups of antibiotics cannot be used during pregnancy unambiguously. Any means used and medical interventions must be justified. 7 out of 63 newborns were confirmed to have COVID-19. The babies had breathing problems.
We examine them, do a PCR test, observe children, teach mothers to feed and take care of them. We have transferred some patients to other institutions, though kids really needed a larger, more detailed examination and treatment.
Over the past 4 months, 148 women were cured of coronavirus in the single department for women in labor in the region. The second wing of the Lviv Maternity Hospital works as usual. Over the past year, more than 3,000 babies were born there. Reported by Nick Starkov, Yulia Bil, UATV News.
Cheap money and great opportunities. The National Bank plans to maintain a soft monetary policy for the entire year. They should allow businesses to get cheaper loans and young families could get mortgages. My colleagues will tell you more.
Vlad has opened a photo studio in Lviv more than a year ago. Now he's thinking of expanding his business in Kyiv. To start a new project, he plans to take a loan from a bank. When I started my first project, I contacted banks to find out information about loans in order to get a startup capital for it. And at the time, the interest rate was about 20% as far as I remember. For people like Vlad, loans will now become more affordable. The National Bank has reduced the discount rate to a historic low of 6% per annum. One can get a short-term loan at 7–8% per annum in hryvnia and at some 2–3% in foreign currency. Long-term loans will cost an average of 3% more, whereas a year ago a loan in hryvnia was issued at least at 16%.
At present, a good borrower, namely a borrower with a good credit history, can get a loan at 8 and 9% interest rate per annum. If we talk about doing business in the short term, therefore, I believe that the general economic situation, economic recovery, the desire of banks to complete for good borrowers will encourage banks in 2021 to reduce lending rates a little faster. It will happen. It is difficult to say how much it will be, 1% or 2%, but I have no doubt that this will happen.
Affordable loans will help small businesses to cope with the effects of quarantine faster. As for large players in the market, for them it's an opportunity to develop and modernize enterprises. This means new jobs and higher wages. If you are already an entrepreneur, they will give you an opportunity to massively scale your business. It's not just that you have a good idea and you have been developing it for 10 years. You checked it, tested it, loaned money and developed your business and improved it to a larger scale. Therefore, this is the key, this is the blood of the economy, lending. And while there is no credit, the economy is not developing. When lending comes in, the economy starts developing. For ordinary Ukrainians, affordable loans are a chance to finally resolve the housing issue. If you have the opportunity to get a loan, you can, for example, resolve issues related to mortgage. You know, there is a presidential mortgage lending program. There are new opportunities for small and micro businesses development. Therefore, I think there won't be any losers here. The National Bank predicts that under stable conditions, banks will issue 1.5 times more loans for the purchase of housing than in 2020. Thus, Ukrainians will be able to use a mortgage instead of saving up for the whole life to purchase a house or an apartment, reported by Nick Starkov, Svetlana Sich, UATV News.
A similar robot, Bumblebee Transformer and Predator from the movie. Matropavlo from Vinnytsia turns himself into each of those characters. He creates unique costumes by his own and then goes to the streets of the city. My colleagues have also seen the superhero from Vinnytsia.
The samurai robot from the film Wolverine is walking through the center of Vinnytsia. The reaction of passers-by is different from delight to fear.
It is a nice and cool thing to do, even for adults. By the way, adults love to play, don't they?
Robot.
A robot. Which one? How do I know? He's so close. I'm afraid of him. Oh, hello.
The samurai robot is an author's work of 39-year-old Dmytro Pavlov from Vinnytsia. Making costumes is his hobby. His son helps him to put on in the suit.
Ким я являюсь, коли він стає роботом?
I take photos of the costumes for our social network pages, and I help him to put on the suit. Is it difficult? No, it's not difficult. It takes some about 10 minutes. Dmytro creates superhero costumes in this workshop. He says he needs up to 2 months to make one.
Google знает все.
I know everything from Google, which knows everything. Nobody taught me this. I did everything alone. I found information on the internet. There were lots of mistakes. I've even thrown out the first Bumblebee costume I made. Dmytro perfected his skills for a year and a half. Now, in addition to the samurai, his costumes collection includes a character from Transformers. Another prototype is the Predator. No blueprints. All the Craftsman needs is a tape measure, materials, and imagination.
Я не сижу за компьютером.
I'm working with the computer, I'm not calculating, but I watched as much as I could. I can take a tape measure like this, measure my head like this, and then I start crafting. To make a costume perfect, Dmytro creates the superhero's torso based on the plaster prints of his own body. Every detail will be movable.
И когда я буду делать вот так,
When I do this, the mouth will open, and with the main mouth, the main jaws will diverge like this. According to estimates, the work on this costume will cost the author more than $2,000. Dmytro plans to complete it by early spring. Reported by Nick Starkov, Arina Kantanistova, UATV News.
That's all for this hour. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Twitter and Facebook pages. Thank you for staying with UATV channel. Goodbye.